Welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa, where Tulsa's business and community leaders gather together to make great things happen here and around the world. Thank you for joining us today. Who got to go to the Path of Totality and view the total eclipse Monday? Was that not awesome? I mean, that's right up there at the top of my list. Those of you that did not get to do that, next one that comes around in 2024, I would really encourage you to find a place to go see that. That's amazing. Let's take a minute to say hello to those around you. Okay, we've got a great program, chock full of wonderful things today, so let's go ahead and get started. So my good friend Dr. Miller from First Presbyterian Church is going to lead us in our invocation today. Carl Vincent's going to lead us in our four-way test and pledge today. And then Michael Turner is going to introduce our visitors. Dr. Miller?
Let's pray together. Almighty God, you're the giver of every good gift we've ever been given. You're the author of every joy we've ever tasted. We sit with friends at these tables. We gather around bountiful food. And we are mutually called to service above self. Thank you for the Rotary Club of Tulsa. Cause their service to be magnified and to continue a bright light in our city. Thank you for Dr. Ray Owens, for his wife Dion, their two children, Jillian and Jordan. Thank you for the Metropolitan Baptist Church, and I pray that their light will shine brightly in our city. Thank you for the efforts that are being done by so many. Those that represent the Tulsa Rotary Club today who will be speaking to us. I pray that in the context of our gathering, we might find that black and white, rich and poor, literate and illiterate come together in a unified way to serve the common good. And for every person who throws their shoulder into that fray, I know you will give them a blessing, for you are the Lord of every grace and all mercy. Amen.
On the advice of counsel, President Mike's administration has prohibited me from singing. Thus, we will be doing the four-way test. You'll see it on either screen as well as behind me to your right. And then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me reciting the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. Pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone. We can have the camp alumni retreat later. Camp Lawford's, thank you very much. I'm Michael Turner. It's great to have you all here at the Rotary Club of Tulsa. We sometimes tend to say that this is the best Rotary Club of Tulsa, and my friend Carrie Gay Neal reminded me to say that yet again. And she does sell realty, right? Yeah, I'm sorry. So, again, welcome. August 23rd, it's a beautiful day. It's great to have so many guests with us today. So I'm going to name the host Rotarian, and ask for the Rotarian as well as their guests to stand and read their name, and then we'll ask them to sit down, and then please hold your applause until the very end. Chuck Wilson has the young man who gave our opening words today. Thank you so much, Dr. Jim Miller, First Presbyterian. Carrie A. Neal, oh, I didn't even know you were on here. Golly. Glenda Love is with her today. And Glenda's also the guest. That's the shared relationship? Okay. I wasn't going to say that. I just want to make sure. I wanted him to make sure and say that. But Brandy Bynum has with her Naomi Bimba. Good to have you here. Charles Hembry has Jessica Moffitt. Oh, Charles Hembry also has Betty Hembry. Nice. Thank you. Mr. Viles has Danny Daniels with us today. Barney Jones has Karen McConnell with us. Richard Holmes has Teresa Driley. Jerry Dillon has Jim Goodwin. Good to have you here. Tom Klenda has Joshin Tallman. Johan. Thank you. Brian Bovard, Reese Hundley, and Brian Bovard also has Kim Watson with him today. Good to have you all here today. And President John Raines has Arda Bullock with him. Good to have him here. Let's give a round of applause for our visiting guest today. And we have a few visiting Rotarians. Assistant Governor from Southside, Larry Boyer. Hi, Larry. Past District Governor from North Tulsa Club, Wallace Williams. Yes, sir. And from Sand Springs Club, Brian Jackson. All right. All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Dr. Miller, Carl, and Michael. Appreciate that. And welcome visitors. If you're looking for a place to join with Tulsa's business and community leaders and serve your community, this is the place for you. We hope you'll feel welcome and will consider joining us. And Larry, Wallace, thanks for joining us today. Always a pleasure to have royalty here with us. And Larry will be back on September 13th when our current district governor comes. Okay, so now please join me in recognizing and thanking this week's meeting sponsors, Doug Stewart with J.D. Young and Matthew Bristow with Clear Ridge. Thanks, guys. In addition to our sponsors today, please join me in thanking all of our volunteers whose committed service makes our meetings run smoothly week after week in spite of me. Okay, we have several announcements today. This club, I said this last week, and we are like crazy busy right now, and there's so much going on. And so we're just going to touch some of what's going on. If you've been missing the email from Rochelle with last week's video in it, it's because she's not sending it anymore. She sends out the newsletter like every Tuesday now, and down in the lower left-hand corner we have a space called In Case You Missed It, and she's embedded links to the YouTube videos for each of the past like 3 or 4 meetings down there. So I would encourage you, if you miss a meeting, go click on the one you missed and take a look at the video, watch it, and if you'd like a makeup, just send Rochelle an email. We go on the 4-way test that you watched the entire 1-hour video. But it is a good way to kind of catch up on what's going on in the club. And then speaking of the newsletter, we are looking for a creative name for the newsletter other than Rotary Club of Tulsa Newsletter. So, and we've got some great creative minds out there. I know there are some out there because I've shared lunch with some of you. So think about some names and get with either myself, send me an email or call me, or get with Rochelle, and let's see if we can come up with some snappy name for our newsletter. So last night we had our first yearling university of this kind of semester, and I got to tell you, I left that place jazzed up. We have got some great new members in this club, and I'm here to report the future of this club looks bright, bright, bright. I mean, we are attracting the best and the brightest, and it was a great presentation. Linda did an awesome job on covering the history of Rotary and the history of the club. John Debar, John, are you here somewhere? John's the one that heads this up. He did a fantastic job pulling this together, and then Rochelle talked a little bit about DAC-DB. So the next, I knew I was going to do that, I told you. The next Yearling University is October 24th, same bat time, same bat place, 810 building from 5:30 to 7. So I would encourage you to come. You don't have to just be a new member to come. It's a good chance to meet the new members, and it's a good chance to kind of get caught up on what's going on in the club. There were a few of us that are non-yearlings that were there last night, and like I say, I left jazzed up. Okay, next week we're going to be saying goodbye to the church's kitchen staff, and we're actually kind of giving them the day off so they can join us in our meetings so we can thank them. So I would encourage you to show up and kind of out of respect, tell them thanks. And then we're going to be catering our meetings for the next few weeks as the church kind of goes through this process, and we're helping them out. Casey King has stepped forward again and is helping the church kind of walk. There you are, Casey. Thanks for your help. Walk through this process of finding a new kitchen staff or a caterer. So as we cater these lunches, give us your feedback. Tell us what you think. You like it? Don't like it? Next week is going to be Tiamos, so that should be good. So bring a guest. Bring a guest. And then I wanted to report our outbound Rotary Exchange student, Garrett Taverner, who some of us met at the airport when our inbound exchange student came in, is safely in Japan now. So he arrived there, and he's already had a meal with his Japanese family. And so send him your wishes and prayers, and we'll be interested to hear his report when he gets back. I'm sure he's going to have a great time. And then finally, I want to announce for the month of September, we're going to do a little kind of membership drive. The membership committee's been hard at work on this, and there'll be more to come on that next week. We're calling it Each One Bring One. So the goal is for each one of us to bring a guest, like we talk about each week, and hopefully we're bringing prospective members. And so Becky Fields will be talking about that next week. Give us a little more details on that. Today's committee meetings, we have two. Above and Beyond is going to meet in room 234, and then Fireside is going to meet in room 233. So if you're looking for a place to get plugged in, I would encourage you to try one of these committees. These are great committees with great committee chairs, and they can always use more help. They're always looking for fresh ideas. So if you've got a little bit of time after the meeting, I would encourage you to go join them. Sarge. Sir Charles, where are you there, buddy?
Well, Mike, President Mike, you know, I call you Monday morning, we just visited, you're all excited about the eclipse, you said I should check it out, and then you tell me, you know, that I needed special sunglasses. What you didn't tell me, they couldn't be the 3D sunglasses I watched at Skull Island.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I'm sorry.
No, there's a reason you're President Mike and not optometrist Mike.
Yeah.
I'm doing a little bit better.
The details. Devil's in the details, man.
I'm about 50% right now, so anybody's driving, you don't want to watch out for the Toyota Camry. So
we're glad to have you back, Charles. We missed you for the past 2 weeks.
Well, it's really great to be here, Mike, wherever you are.
There's like at least 5 people in the room with you right now. So.
There's 5 people here.
Yes.
You know, we're 2 or 3 gathered. All right, let's do this. All right. No, we're doing it right here, Trish. I don't think I could walk forward. I really don't. All right, the first thing up is Tom Clinda's birthday. Whoops, we're going too fast. Go back. There we go. Tom Clinda's birthday, $100. Thank you, Tom, for that. 32 years in Rotary. He doing some math situation here with Roger Maris, 61 home runs last year, +1. And then you had Tom, Carol, and the grandkids. You somehow come up with $100, and I'll let the mathematicians do that here in the building. And the great thing about Tom is, you know, he's so involved with his grandkids, but he also takes a lot of pride in his ability to do puzzles. And he was bragging to me about doing these puzzles, and he said, I finished a puzzle in 2 days, and the box said 2 to 4 years. So I was really excited for him. And so when you see Tom, give him a special congratulations on what would be his 62nd birthday. All right, then. Next up, somebody has a baby. Peter Jansen, brand new born baby, $20 fine right there, cute as anything. Of course, you see Peter on the other side and the look on his face saying, what was I thinking 9 months ago? These late nights are getting to him. But thank you, Peter, for sharing this wonderful moment with us all. All right, so one of the things, a couple weeks ago, or actually probably about a month ago, I tried to explain this Rotary Exchange thing, and apparently I screwed up, and Tricia called me out on it and said, okay, you got it wrong. I'm going to pay a $25 fine just so I can correct it. So Tricia, tell me a little bit more about what happened.
You're a nut. Okay, so Charles really messed up 3 weeks ago. So I just thought he shouldn't get away with that.
Absolutely.
So this is the real story. If you read Brian's long email, like I did, I understood the whole story. And so are we going to put oh, maybe not. Okay. So there were 2 boys at Camp Enterprise last year. We had our student from Tulsa, and his name is Ian, and we had a student from Norman, one of our youth exchange students, and his name is Pablo. So we always invite the youth exchange students to come to Camp Enterprise to add diversity to the weekend. It makes for a more rich experience. The students get to learn about our free enterprise system, et cetera. You all get that. So anyway, Ian and Pablo had a great weekend like all the other students. Ian went back to school, right? And Pablo goes back to Norman. He's from another district, but we always invite them. So at the end of the year, Pablo goes back to France. Ian is on a vacation. He goes to France on vacation, and he's in the catacombs of Paris. I guess that's where the catacombs are. I don't know. He's in the catacombs, and he sees the Oklahoma flag. And he's like, what the heck? So he goes up, and he says, who's got the Oklahoma flag? And it's Pablo. And they just ran into each other in the catacombs of Paris. See, isn't that a more rich story than what Charles told you 3 weeks ago?
Wow, that's a totally different story than we heard 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm not even sure the countries were right or anything.
The problem is I don't speak French.
Yeah, well, something. Can you repeat that now, Charles, now that you got that locked in your brain there?
Parlez-vous français? All right. All right, it is that time of year. Football, so exciting, and our friends Barbara and Tim Knoll have once again provided us with season home game tickets to both OSU and OU. There is a bidding table out front, and so hopefully we'll all take advantage of it as the monies will go to the Rotary Club Foundation. I will say this, the cool thing about the OSU, you can't go wrong there. If you bid on it, you have a choice of, or not choice, but it will have breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's a guarantee with an OSU game. The only thing I can guarantee with OU, though, is that you're probably a chance you're going to win 90% of the game. So that's always it. You can tell how the OSU crowd, they got really clean on that one. Yeah. Okay. We continue on. Last week I had to go, this is my picture of the week. Last week I went on Travelocity and I picked you know how you pick randomly and you don't know where you're staying. And anyway, so here I am pulling up and anyway, if you go to Travelocity, don't look for a unique boutique motel. Because the unique, I think, is what supplanted my safety there and all. So anyway, so that's it. And please give me a holler. I'll be happy to help you out any way I can. And thanks for bearing with me and my eyesight problems. President Mike.
I'm sure your sight will come back soon.
Well, it comes in and out, so probably through the rest of the meeting I'll be able to see. So that's a good thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
We're glad
Thank
you're
you.
back, Sarge. And again, thanks to Tim and Barbara. I don't see Tim here. For the tickets again this year. That's an amazing gift to the club. We raise a lot of money by people buying those tickets. So let's bid them up. I got 2 great, pains me to say this. We got 2 great football teams this year. But it does excite me to say it because usually it'd be just one. God darn. Oh, yeah, sorry. Scratch that. Okay. It's time for Mike to sit down. TU is going to be awesome this year. Now, who are we going to, yeah. So on that big game, I think we need to be wearing our OSU orange and our TU blue for the meeting that week. That's next week, right? Yeah, so wear your school colors. If some of you want to wear orange and blue, that'd be cool. So let's get psyched up for that. Okay, Rotarian of the Day, Chuck Jordan. I've never felt safer up here at the front table. And the way this meeting's going, I may need you, Chuck. We warned you. So Chuck joined Rotary in 2012, and he joined the Tulsa Police Department in 1969 and was one of the first SWAT team members. And he was appointed Chief of Police in November of 2010, and today Chuck directs all patrol, investigative, and administrative operations of the Tulsa Police Department and has over 40 years of experience. And how fortunate we are to have him leading our police department. Chuck's better half is Judy Dunlop Jordan, and they have 3 children, and of interest is one of his sons, Clint, is a K-9 police officer, which I think is pretty cool. So please join me in welcoming to the podium Chuck Jordan.
In case anyone's shocked by that 1969 number, I joined when I was 10. So, the Reverend Dr. Ray A. Owens leads a multifaceted life as a husband, father, pastor, scholar, and public intellectual. Reverend Owens is the pastor of the Metropolitan Baptist Church of Tulsa. During his tenure, the church has more than quadrupled in membership and its Sunday attendance. In addition to his parish work, Dr. Owens serves as the affiliate assistant professor of ethics and black church studies at the Phillips Theological Seminary, and has taught religious studies at the Oklahoma State University, Tulsa and Texas Christian University. In 1989, Dr. Owens earned his Bachelor's of Arts degree in English from the University of Texas at Austin. You can also wear orange, it'll just have to be burnt orange. Okay, and the Master of Divinity degree from Princeton Theological Seminary in 1998. In the spring of 2005, he received the cum laude distinction for his doctoral dissertation and earned the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Religion and Society from Princeton Theological Seminary. Dr. Owens is deeply involved in the community. He serves on the steering committee of Impact Tulsa and is a board member for Tulsa Educare. He is also the founder and chairman of the board of the Met Cares Foundation, a nonprofit organization that seeks to facilitate the development of high-performing schools in the North Tulsa community. Dr. Owens is an active member of both Alpha Phi Alpha and Sigma Pi Phi fraternities. Reverend Owens is married to Dr. Dion Owens, a staff psychiatrist for Shadow Mountain Behavioral Center. Doctors Ray and Dion Owens have 2 daughters, Jordan Alexandra and Jillian Ray. We've got a lot of leaders in this room, of organizations, government entities, corporations, you name it. This organization is full of leaders. There's some very special leaders in this room also, and those are those who take up the mantle of spiritual leadership. Dr. Miller, Muzan, and most certainly the person I would like you to welcome now to the podium, Dr. Ray Owens. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Jordan. When I leave here, I'm going to give my mother a call. She's 92 years old, and she likes to hear about good things that happen in my life. And I'm going to tell her that I not only addressed the Rotary Club, but the person who introduced me was the Chief of Police. And so my mom will actually be excited about that. If you knew her, you'd understand that. So that's a call I will make from my car. And this is exciting. This is the first time I've ever been introduced by the chief of police, or I think any police officer. But it's not the first time that I've addressed a Rotary Club. In fact, I grew up in Austin, Texas, and so don't hold that against me. When you grow up in Austin, Texas, you go to the University of Texas. You know, you're trained in that way, right? So we're talking about bridging divides today, aren't we? Yeah. Let's start there. Yeah. You know, but no, I grew up in Austin, Texas, and really there was an organization that frankly saved my life, and it was the Boys Club of Austin, Texas. Then it was just the Boys Club. I know there are boys and girls clubs today, but it was the Boys Club, one of the affiliates of then Boys Clubs of America. My very first, or one of my earliest public speaking engagements, in fact, was at the Rotary Club in Austin, Texas, because they were one of the major sponsors and supporters for our local club. And I remember, I guess I was 12 or 13 years old. The executive director picked me to be the kid who went to thank the Rotary Club and, frankly, a lot of other sponsors by speaking at a luncheon. I guess like this. Y'all have been doing this for a little while, it appears, because I was quite young. So I spoke to them when I was 12 or 13, and then in 1978, I was actually selected as the National Boy of the Year for Boys Clubs of America and spoke all over the country. And that same Rotary Club that helped form our club invited me to come back and speak to them about my experience as the National Boy of the Year and having met then President Jimmy Carter. Still have the photos, and I just don't show them very much because the suit that I had on just was not something I want to remember, let alone show anybody. But I did meet him. So this is actually my third time addressing a Rotary Club, and I must say it is a great honor. Thanks for the incredible work that you all do to make a difference in our community. I want to talk a little bit about the whole issue of race relations in Tulsa and issue of race relations nationally. And as we well know, the recent events in our nation remind us of the riddling reality that race still does matter in our society. The conflict in Charlottesville, Virginia, thrust this nation once again into a national discourse on race. And so our topic today seems well-timed in terms of what happens to be on the minds of so many Americans. As a person who does his work in the African-American community, I know it's a topic that's on the minds of African-Americans throughout our city, but I suspect all Americans who have a vision for a united community of humanity throughout our nation. The blatant racist rhetoric, though, and actions on the part of the white supremacists and neo-Nazi groups has exposed on the national scene a worrisome wound, I believe, that our nation has yet to heal. Tragically, the racist ideology of those so-called Unite the Right marchers is not an expression of some distant past reality. At least that's not the impression that many people of color have. For many of us, those horrible words and attitudes are a part of our very present existential truth. We experience the principle of racism in systemic and entrenched ways. It's in the ways that our schools are funded. It's evident in the employment practices of some corporations and government entities. It's felt in our encounters, oftentimes with law enforcement, in fact. So when many black people see mobs of men using the N-word as they are assaulting another human being or spouting anti-Semitic rhetoric, they will often remark that this is what we've been saying all along. Sure, conditions have improved in our nation for people of color, but there's still a great deal of work to do, not only in our nation and in places like Charlottesville, Virginia, but even here at home in Tulsa, Oklahoma. As for me, I prefer to look to constructive solutions to our race problems rather than spending an inordinate amount of time lamenting over the problem. To that end, I point to the vision that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. outlined for this nation. many, many decades ago. The work that Martin King committed himself to and called others to commit themselves to is the work of creating what he liked to refer to as the beloved community. This community is characterized by justice for all people, equal opportunity, and genuine love of one's fellow human beings. And while we have made some incredible progress toward these aims, King's dream has yet to be fully realized. In fact, the moral vision he offers for the world is one that remains depressingly distant from our current social conditions. I'd go so far as to say that our moral progress toward justice and equality for all people has moved at a terribly lethargic rate. It is rather disheartening to know that humankind has made extraordinary advances in science and in technology and music and in art, but we've made very little progress in our moral development. We made very little progress when it comes to understanding how to respect the dignity of our fellow man and our fellow woman. We know how to send a man to the moon, but we have yet to learn how to treat our neighbor as ourselves. We figured out how to communicate instantaneously with people on the other side of the world through text, through video, through Facebook, through Skype and Twitter, but we still don't know how to sit down and communicate with one another in love, respecting the differences that make us all unique. That is why we have still much work to do. We have yet to create that community where all people really treat all people with equal intrinsic worth. While many of us are enjoying the great resources of this world and living our own version of the so-called American dream, there are others still living the nightmare that haunted the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and prompted him to declare, and I quote, "We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity." My friends, I stand to remind us all today that many of our children are still being stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity. In the work that I've been involved in, I've come to believe that education is the civil rights issue of our time, and therefore an essential factor in advancing racial justice and dismantling all racial disparities will involve addressing the gross inequity in our systems of public education. Near the beginning of the previous century, noted scholar, sociologist, historian W.E.B. Du Bois suggested that the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. Du Bois rightly concluded that the barrier created by customs and laws and economic conditions effectively prevented non-whites from fulfilling their God-given potential in our nation and our world. Today, I think Du Bois's color line is slightly more complex. And an updated way of framing the problem, he once noted, might be to argue that the problem of the 21st century is the problem of what I call the learning line. The learning line is that barrier that has been constructed by centuries of educational inequity between whites and non-whites, between wealthy and the poor, between the haves and the have-nots, between North and South. Black people have long viewed education as their primary equalizer, as the primary equalizer between the races, and an essential factor in their pursuit for racial justice. However, the radical divide between the educational experiences of black and brown people and that of whites has stymied this very aim. The so-called black-white achievement gap is a crisis of epic proportions. By age 17, the average African-American student is 4 years behind the average white student. Black 12th graders score lower than white 8th graders in reading, math, history, and geography. Of the nearly 10,000 black students in Tulsa public schools right here at home, nearly half attended schools with an F grade from the Oklahoma State report card. Nearly 45% of African-American kids failed the 3rd grade reading proficiency exam, placing them on paths toward prison, according to data on likely consequences of such illiteracy. Today, North Tulsa's predominantly African-American neighborhoods suffer from disproportionate levels of poverty, unemployment, and blight. While the median income of a non-Hispanic white household is $50,000 in our city, the median income for African-American families is only $25,000 a year. The statewide unemployment average is 5% for non-Hispanic whites, but 8.84% among African Americans in North Tulsa and 8.03% for Hispanics. The starkly disproportionate 43.5% of residents in the 74106 North Tulsa zip code live below the poverty level, as compared to Tulsa's overall 26% and the state of Oklahoma 22.3%. These numbers are reflected in the school population, with 91% of TPS elementary school students within North Tulsa zip code eligible for free and reduced lunch. In light of this interdependent relationship between poverty and education, I maintain that the problem of the 21st century is the problem of the learning line. In my view, education is the platform from which Tulsa, and frankly the nation, ought to address the perplexing problem of racial disparity. Having said that, today I want to highlight some important work that is being done right here in our city to turn the tide of educational inequity, the tide of educational inequity that has too long plagued our city. It's basically, if you'll bring that first slide up, it's basically a little group project, I call it, we've got going on up in North Tulsa. For the last 11 years, I've had the great pleasure of serving as the senior pastor of the Metropolitan Baptist Church, an historically black congregation on the north side of town. In this time, I've been working with various groups to address challenges of low academic performance of African-American kids and the disproportionately high numbers of suspensions. As a 1990 Teach for America Corps member, I took a pledge. To make a lifelong commitment to taking the work of advocating for high quality of education for all kids, regardless of race or creed or zip code. Took a pledge to advocate for improved educational opportunities. Hence, my first initiative around, as the pastor of the Metropolitan Baptist Church, were organized around outreach focused on improving education. So, what I have learned, though, and one of the things we focused on in this work, is that we understand that North Tulsa has many rich traditions, a wealth and stability of our former Greenwood community gives us a resource upon which we must draw. And there are a group of us there in this group project that are working to rebuild this Greenwood idea by focusing on 3 work streams. Those include community engagement, economic development, but the anchor is great schools. One of the things that we know is that if you can build great schools will attract improved housing. Great schools will attract better economic opportunities and more commercial development. So that's the work that we've committed ourselves to do. In 2014, a group of more than 300 African-American leaders in the city gathered to change the trajectory through a community-based effort. The Metropolitan Baptist Church, in collaboration with a group out of Sacramento, California, called Stand Up, hosted 2 convenings. The then mayor, Dewey Bartlett, then superintendent Keith Ballard, George Kaiser, and many other citywide leaders were in attendance at the second of those meetings, showing the importance of this work and the potential of these events. The group came to agreement that it was absolutely possible to change the educational circumstances for North Tulsa's African-American students. In fact, for North Tulsa's students regardless of race. So we learned at that meeting some disturbing information. We learned that day that 45% of African-American students in TPS are attending schools that the state has declared or has given the F grade. That means that almost 5,000 kids who happen to be African American are placed in these schools with very little opportunity for change. We decided to engage in what we call a community-led change to make a difference. The other data that was presented that day is right around the church where we were meeting, the Metropolitan Baptist Church. We identified a 7-school feeder pattern with all failing schools, 5 elementary schools that had been given the grade F, which all fed into a middle school that had been assigned the grade F, which all feed into a high school which had been assigned the grade F. So, rather than lament the problem, we decided that we would address the problem with this community-led change. We said, what if, as a group, we could create 7 new schools, 5 elementary schools, all feeding into 1 middle school, all feeding into 1 high school, where the schools would provide the academic rigor and opportunities that we know all students need. We realized that if we could do that, then we would have nearly 4,900 high-quality educational seats for the nearly 5,000 African-American students today who are attending poor schools. We then decided we would form a group of about 15 leaders who spent a year traveling all over the country looking at best practices among high-performing African-American schools in low-income neighborhoods. We visited nearly 4 dozen schools over the course of 12 months to find models that we thought would work here in Tulsa. There are some things that we learned in that work. We learned, first of all, that it can be done, that there are exceptionally high-performing schools operating in low-income African-American communities all over this nation, in Sacramento, in Harlem, in Memphis, in Washington, D.C. One particular model that excited us a great deal was in Memphis, Tennessee. It was a business model where kids focused on business and entrepreneurship. In fact, every child, by the time he or she is in middle school, actually had to have a business plan. And the business plan was a part of an integrated curriculum. And so one of the things that really excited us there is not only did the kids have a business plan that they actually dealt with in their English class, and there was some social studies instruction related to the development of the business plan. And of course, you could teach math in relationship to the development of the business plan. But then by high school, every kid actually executed the plan. We met a young girl. She won a prize for her business, and now is I think a sophomore at Tufts University. Single-parent home, a mother working poor, but this girl started a cupcake business. And she had the most successful business in her grade one year so that she won a contract with a local organization that allowed her to provide all the desserts for this huge, fancy event there in Memphis, Tennessee. Another couple of kids we met, they are the youngest owners of a food truck company. They actually can't even drive yet. Their mom has to drive them, but they prepare the food. And they set up like we do on Guthrie Green when business people and folk who work in downtown areas want to have lunch. One of the food trucks that's often there is owned by kids who came out of this school. And so our vision here with this organization that is now called the Met Cares Foundation is starting with kids as early as pre-K in our predominantly African-American section of the city, is to rebuild the reality of the Greenwood District and Black Wall Street by implementing this business and entrepreneurship-focused school so that beginning at age 4, our kids will be introduced to principles of financial literacy, the things that your children and my children probably absorb just from being in the environment that they are living in, now will be made available to these young people. And so as I grapple with the whole problem of race and race relations in our nation, I actually believe that this is the area that all of us who want to invest in making this world the kind of place that Dr. Martin Luther King described as the blood of community ought to invest our resources, our time, our talent, our treasures into education that creates equity for all people. Thank you so much for giving me your time. Thank you for the opportunity to share again with the Rotary Club. So I must say I'm really proud of myself. I'm a Black Baptist preacher, and I didn't go over my time limit. The president says I even have enough time left for a question or two, and I'm happy to do so. Jim.
One or two or three of the biggest challenges that you've encountered trying to move forward
With the school? Well, yeah. So, right. What are two or three of the biggest challenges we've encountered with moving forward with the school? One, dealing with really big bureaucracies. I will say that I thought that it was going to happen much more quickly than it happened. So time, we came at this with a great sense of urgency, but the time it took to actually get the partnership application approved, and then we thought we were there, and then, of course, once you get the partnership application approved that says you can run a school in the TPS school system, then you have to get subsequent approval. So I think, given our sense of urgency, we were oftentimes frustrated by how much time it takes to actually implement something like this. The other challenge that I would name, has to do with bringing together all the diverse stakeholders. So everybody wants kids to have a great education, right? Nobody would deny that. But there are a lot of stakeholders that need to be brought together to pull off something like this. And that was really difficult. You got, a funding community, you got a school district, you got parents, you have, other, involving the business community and meeting with people at the chamber, that kind of thing. So really just pulling all those stakeholders together to really help people understand why this was so important to us. And here's, I guess maybe this is probably the better part of the answer to your question. It was difficult getting people to understand why we needed to hear, value, and execute the voices of the people who are most directly impacted by the so-called education reform. You got professional educators, people who know this. One of the mistakes I think we've made historically with this kind of work when we're going into communities that are trying to raise the academic outcomes of their students, usually there is a disconnect between the professionals, right, who have a great deal of information about how to get the work done, and the people who actually live there and understand the culture of the community. So articulating and bringing all the stakeholders along with regard to the importance of this being community-led, not just, community involvement. This is a community-led initiative, and that wasn't easy. Great. So has the school opened, and how do the students feel about it? The school opened on Monday. 'Monday? 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 ' And we have, so it's, we're operating out of the Academy Central Elementary School, which is in Gilcrease Hills of North Tulsa. And the first year, we're running the pre-K, K, and first grades, and then we'll add a grade each year. We enrolled 160 students. We still have, I think, 18 pre-K seats. So if you know somebody who's looking for a great pre-K experience, tell them to check us out. The students and families are incredibly excited. First of all, many of them have been engaged in the discussions since the summer of 2014, right? To see this actually come to pass has been a great win, I think, for everybody in the community. Our school district partners have been genuine partners. I can't thank Superintendent Gist enough and her team for really working with us to make this happen. So yes, we are up and running. This is day 3 of the school, and we got a lot of very happy parents and students, and just an amazing team. Yeah. So I saw the hand way in the back there first, I guess so. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what kind of grade that school gets, but that's a pretty good school. But I would say the primary problem with the students there is most of them are from single-parent families.
Yep.
And they are not getting any adult help at all.
Outside of what you and other reading partners are doing. So one of the things we do know is some of those schools where parents are really strapped for time and money and may not have as much time as some of us do in terms of reading to their kids. Sometimes they're working 2 jobs because there is one parent and there are multiple children. So a program like Reading Partners can help fill some of that void. We actually have a Reading Partners site at the name of the school that we formed is Greenwood Leadership Academy. At GLA, we call it. It's a Reading Partners site. So first of all, thank you for what you are doing. In fact, you have no idea, maybe you do, but I hope you understand that you make an incredible difference just by the 1 hour or so that you spend each week. Reading Partners is one of the most successful programs that we have in Tulsa. We run a program at the church each summer in partnership actually with the United Methodist Church of Oklahoma. It's called Project Transformation. The last 2 years we've used Reading Partners curriculum and their volunteers, and it has made a huge difference. We, this past year, saw that 93% of the kids who went through our summer program were reading proficient by the time they returned to school this August on Monday. So Reading Partners makes a difference.
Dr. Owens, thank you. You're obviously a servant leader. We appreciate your passion. We appreciate your commitment to the children, to our community. We look forward to tracking your progress, hopefully being a part of that somehow. We'd love to partner with you and be a part of the solution. So thank you for your time today. So a book recognizing your talk to us today will be provided to our adopted school, Celia Clinton. The title is Inside Out and Back Again. With a title like that, don't you just want to grab that and read that? That just looks intriguing to me. Okay, Terry Heritage, speaking of Celia Clinton and education. Terry is another servant heart that we have in our club. Terry has a heart for the children at Celia Clinton. Terry?
Thank you, President Mike. I hope you don't get tired of me getting up here for the last 11 years, begging my generous Rotarians for donations for the teachers. Those of you who remember Mike Chittum, we worked together on a personal basis at the school, and we realized that the teachers they don't make very much money, and I don't think that that is a surprise to anyone here. We're always hearing about it. And they teach in a very poor neighborhood, so they don't have the rich PTAs like some of the other schools have. So we came up with this idea to try to collect enough money to give every teacher 2 $100 gift certificates, one for Walmart and one for the Learning Shop. They seem to like the things they have there. When you make a donation, it can be any amount. A lot of people give 100, 200, 300, and some even more. But you don't have to stop at that. I mean, you can give any amount. Yeah, that came out different, but that's okay. But when you make any kind of a donation, we can put it together, and when I go to buy the gift certificates, it all works out. I have a budget of about $9,000 I want to raise this year. And there's a paper on most of the tables. We kind of ran out of them. Tells you to make your check out to our foundation at Rotary so you can get a tax credit. Just be sure you put adopt a class in the memo. If you have any questions, you can talk to me or anyone in the office. Oh, by the way, when I give out the gift certificates to the teachers, you can't imagine how thrilled they are. They buy all the supplies for their classrooms. I tell them they can buy anything they want except a 6-pack of Bud Light. Thank you.
Terry, thank you for your passion. We appreciate you, we really do. And we're going to be out at Celia Clinton next month. And so let's see if we can help Terry raise her $9,000 and have a celebration when we go out there next month. Upcoming programs. We're going to continue this conversation next week. We're actually going to have Kathy Siebold with Impact Tulsa here next week. So I think that's going to be very timely. And then September 6th, Mark Pendergast with Heritage Auction. And I didn't know what Heritage Auction was, but my words, they kind of auction high-end, high-value stuff. So that should be real interesting, some of the stories I'm sure they have to tell. So thank you for attending today's meeting. Mark your calendars and bring guests at our next meetings. And I encourage you, again, to go out, tell your Rotary story to someone, share your story with someone, and don't forget to bring a guest next week. Thank you.